Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Say It Brave webinar, Mothering in 2020, How to Mother Yourself and Others During Hard Times. My name is Shannon Kopp. I'm a National Recovery Advocate for Eating Recovery Center and Pathlight Mood and Anxiety Centers. And I am so thankful as a mom and as a person who has struggled with mental health issues and continues to for this support tonight. And before we get started, I just want to acknowledge whoever is joining us tonight. Thank you for your courage and taking the time to practice some self-care during what is a stressful week for all of us living in America, no matter what our political beliefs are. There's just a lot of stressful, anxious energy in our country, and I know it's been really tough for a lot of people in our Say It Brave community. I've gotten emails that there's a lot of emotions and people are feeling tired and drained. So we hope we're going to be talking about filling up our cups tonight with our two amazing speakers who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But thank you for filling up your cup tonight. We hope that you can through this webinar. And just a couple quick housekeeping items. One is that if you go to our website, eatingrecoverycenter.com/say-it-brave. You can also just go under our resources and click Say It Brave. And you click on our event for the night, you'll see a self-reflection tool. You can use that as a way to either after the webinar or during it when Dr. Allison Chase and McCall Dempsey are talking, just reflect on your own life. And we hope that that is helpful to you. Secondly, there is a resource list in which we included some meditations for parents from Headspace and also from ERC and Pathlight. And then, of course, we're including the Alliance for Eating Disorder Awareness, their resources as well in the resource list. So please check that out. And without further ado, I would like to launch into the webinar and introduce one of our speakers, McCall Dempsey. McCall Dempsey is the director of Southern Smash, founder of Southern Smash, an eating disorder survivor and passionate recovery advocate. After a 15-year battle, McCall sought treatment in December 2010. Since then, she has made eating disorder awareness and prevention her life's work and passion. McCall travels the country sharing her story of hope and healing with audiences everywhere. From high school auditoriums to treatment centers to corporate meetings, her message of authenticity and embracing your inner uniqueness transcends all ages. McCall also writes the popular blog, Loving Imperfection. Her writing has been featured in various national television, print, online publications, including the Today Show. We are so lucky to have McCall on. You can follow her on Instagram. I know for me as a mama and as a person who's in eating disorder recovery, I get inspiration from her every single day. So McCall, thank you so much for joining us. And will you share a little bit about the Alliance for Eating Disorders Awareness and your incredible work there?
Yeah, so thank you both so much for having me. Can y'all hear that? Is that on your end? Can you hear a reverb? Or is it just me?
Okay, I don't hear it.
It's gone now. You know, it wouldn't be a Zoom meeting without tech difficulties. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It has been, it's been a really exciting year for me. Aside from the crazy dumpster fire of 2020, about in July 2019, I merged Southern Smash with the Alliance for Eating Disorders Awareness. And that has been really, really exciting on so many levels. Joanna Kendall, who started the Alliance, we just celebrated 20 years in October, which is so exciting. We had worked together for many, many years, and it just became very clear to me that, you know, rather than keep reinventing the wheel, because all I wanted to do was really leave behind solid resources and support tools for folks, to just get married. And so that's what we did in 2019 officially. And we have, you know, taken from just together this really collaborative always working side by side to working together with our amazing team. And, you know, two things that I really wanted to highlight tonight. Like I said, we just celebrated 20 years, but two huge things, one of which being our free clinician-led support groups. And so we have 21 support groups across the country. Of course, COVID has us stopping in person, but through overnight, we've flipped into a virtual platform. And so right now we have two virtual free clinician-led support groups for individuals. And then we have one for friends and family. And very, very exciting, we just announced next week we will start our LGBTQ plus specific free clinician-led support group. And so that's really exciting. It's really important for us to help give support to all communities and all voices. We also have an amazing referral source. Find ED Help is the largest, most comprehensive database, free database for searching for clinicians in your area, treatment in your area. You can search by insurance, by zip code. Also, you can call us. You can call me. You can call mainly. We are the only ones that have two clinicians on that are going to answer the phone and help you find that support that you need. And so there are just so many things that we do that I'm just so proud of. And I am so proud of the work that we do that helping our community. And yeah, you can go to our website to find out more. And for Southern Smash, that's now a part of the Alliance, we are doing virtual, since we can't smash scales in person, we are doing virtual Smash Talks now across the country in different college campuses. So that's been really exciting as well. And it's always fun to be here with our friends from ERC. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, McCall. And I really can't plug their support groups more. They're clinician-led and incredible. So I know it can be hard. I know for me it was really hard and scary to find the courage to attend a support group, but my goodness, can it make all the difference? So thank you for sharing that with us, McCall. And I would like to now introduce our second amazing speaker, Dr. Allison Chase, someone who I love very much. Allison Chase, Ph.D., CEDS, has been working in the field of eating disorder treatment for over 20 years. Prior to joining Eating Recovery Center and Pathlight Mood and Anxiety Center, Dr. Chase was the principal and founder of A.K. Chase and Associates, which she established in Austin in 2003. Dr. Chase's areas of specialization include child and adolescent mental health issues, the treatment of eating disorders, parental training and education, and family or team-based therapy. In addition to serving her patients, Dr. Chase enjoys helping others on a mass scale through presentations and media interviews. She offers training and ongoing education for other professionals across the U.S., as well as workshops for schools and community organizations. We are so thankful that you are taking the time tonight to be with us, Dr. Chase, and I'm really looking forward to what both you and McCall have to share.
Great, thank you so much for having me. It's events like this that I just love to do. And a huge shout out to the Alliance. What an incredible organization. And I have to say, I remember it 20 years ago. So I'm just telling you, I remember when it started. I remember back then with the printed books, and it is, it's pretty incredible. So not to date me at all, but you know, that's kind of what happened. So I am thrilled to be here today to talk to you all about this idea of mothering and mothering in 2020. And I always feel the need to start with this cartoon because I think nothing depicts the challenges of parenting in a better way, right? Nobody gives you like a guide or a manual. Yes, there are those books out there you can get, but really, does anyone give you a manual to tell you exactly how to do all these things? No. And so I want you all to keep that in mind, that nobody gave you a manual and you're doing the best that you can. And I will tell you, as a clinician and with the working with the families that we work with, this is something I make sure every parent and caregiver and family member knows, that we understand that what you're being challenged with on any given day, you're just doing the best you can, right? We're all figuring it out as we go. It includes all of us. So keeping that in mind. So let's talk a little bit about mothering and motherhood, right? And the reality is, it is so worth it. And it is so wonderful and so incredible, and nothing feels more fulfilling. And by the way, if there are moments where it doesn't feel fulfilling and it doesn't feel incredible, that's also okay, because that's part of life and part of reality. So let's get that out of the way right now. We all know it's not an ongoing fantasy, and yet there is a warmth that brings to all of us. Because here's the kind of thing that happens, right? Look at this, the perfect watch. Let every day be 36 hours. Some of us could use 48 hours just in one day alone, because of all the demands and the challenges that are out there. And I think ultimately that's one of the things that makes motherhood such a great challenge. I know McCall has all these wonderful stories of her her world and life in challenging that. But let's talk about what's happened in 2020. Let's talk about what your expectations are to do. And it is pretty incredible now to try to, whether you work, and I put in quotes, like out of the home, right? Which is not out of the home anymore. It's in the home, while trying to help your kids. Either you've become their daycare or you've become their teacher or something, and you're still managing all the responsibilities that go along with your household and what's happening. And maybe you have a spouse or don't have a spouse, you've got friends, you've got family. It just doesn't stop. And we've all tried to been doing this in a very more secluded and isolated world. So there is nothing more challenging. And you know what? The data is telling us this, right? 74% of mothers said that they're feeling mentally worse since this pandemic began. That's a huge percentage. We have a number of new moms that are really talking about and being challenged by a lot of depressive symptoms, at 40% compared to the 15 before the pandemic. So we knew depression existed, and we knew postpartum depression existed. The numbers in which we're seeing more and more depressive symptoms is clearly concerning. And then look what's going on with anxiety, right? 72% feeling moderate to high anxiety. And the big deal about that is it's up from 43 beforehand. So again, we've talked about, in general, mothering and parenting has this challenge that's out there. We know that anxiety is gonna come with it, but the fact that it's almost doubled is really of great concern. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today, is the idea about what anxiety is and how real it is and what we can do about it. So let's talk clinically just for a minute or two, right? So anxiety is made up of all these bits and pieces. And I'm gonna kind of put them up there so we can just get a better idea of what we talk about. So there's the idea of stress. Who hasn't used that word a million times every day? Like, I'm so stressed out, I feel so much stress, right? Being challenged by that. Here's the thing I want to point out to you. Stress is actually a physiological feeling. So it is physiological symptoms that we experience. So you're right, you do feel stressed, but I want you to tune into the fact that that's kind of your body's response to it. Then there's another part that goes along with it. So you've got the body reacting, right? And then the worry kicks in, right? When we talk about worry, we're really talking about what our thoughts are and where sort of all our brain takes us, right? So and what happens is you've got your body reacting, your brain starts going, and what's our end result? That's really what anxiety is. So fear is sometimes used as a word. Anxiety fits the term also. The idea is it's that combination of physiological symptoms and arousal combined with what's going on mentally for us, and that's what anxiety is. And I'm breaking this down for you because I think if we understand exactly where anxiety comes from, it helps us a little bit to figure out what we can do about relieving some of that end result which ends up being the anxiety in the end. And for some, it's overtaking us, right? For some, we just can't even get a hold of it. And that's where we become really concerned and it becomes more debilitating. So what exactly is happening? This is your brain. So this is what a brain looks like in a very kind of simplified version, shall we say. And I put this up here not because you thought you were having a science lesson today, but because it's super important to understand this piece of how things go. I'm going to simplify anxiety for you like in no time. We have what we call the downstairs brain. You ask any medical doctor, they will tell you there are a lot of other more professional words around it, but we're going to call it the downstairs brain. And the reason why we're referring to that way, it's our most basic, fundamental, it's actually like that reptilian part of our brain, the one that's very basic. It doesn't take a lot of higher functioning. It's a lot of stimulus response that's going on. Now, in that downstairs brain, that's actually where our emotional centers are. Okay, so what's happening is we get a lot of like reactivity. And this thing called the amygdala, again, I'm bringing in some fancy names for you all, that's kind of our emotion center. But it's very much our reactive emotion center. It doesn't take a lot to get it fired up and going, right? It can be, we can see something, we can do something. It also can be a really true alarm going on. You could be standing on the corner thinking you can cross the street and out of nowhere comes a bus, right? Well, the reason why we get out of the way and we're able to do that, often like we do, is because we're thankful for our amygdala that actually responds right away and gets us physiologically aroused. Here's what happens. Sometimes the amygdala is working at a time that it's not a real alarm. There's not really a bus coming. Nothing else is happening. So what becomes so challenging is that we're not always using what we call the upstairs brain. So if you see, fancy term, prefrontal or frontal cortex, some of you may have heard about this. And by the way, just a note for those of you with adolescents moving into young adult children, this part of the brain, which is our higher level of thinking, it's where we learn to like plan, executive functioning, make good choices, not fully developed till 25. So I don't know if that makes you feel better or makes you feel worse, but just know those kids that do not so smart things, it will get better. So keep that in mind. What happens for us as adults is if we can activate this prefrontal cortex, if we can activate our smarter sort of upstairs brain, we're going to be good to go, because what happens is the upstairs brain can calm down all that emotions that's going on. The problem is, and the greatest challenge, is that the downstairs brain is often hijacking our upstairs brain. So we need to do something about it. So you might be wondering, well, so what's, okay, great, thanks for the science lesson. What am I going to do about it? I'll tell you what you need to do. Truly, you need to breathe. Now, I know, quite simplified it sounds, but honestly, it is what's really helpful. It is really, really helpful. There are additional strategies as well, and they are a little bit more complex. This one does this incredible job of calming down your entire physiological system, right? It calms down that downstairs brain. It allows that downstairs brain to regulate. It allows which in turn regulates our body, right? Because it controls our central nervous system. And then it allows that frontal area, the area that we want to be working, to actually help us realize that we're really not in danger, or we can solve what's ahead of us, or I can ask for help if I need it, or whatever the case may be. So you take home anything, please just breathe. Please remember that when there are those times where you feel like you are going into an activated mode like you wouldn't believe, it only just takes sometimes 3 to 5 breaths to get us to calm down and be able to react or be able to function in a much better way. And it can be super helpful as you're in that really challenging role of mothering to be able to take care of yourself and to do this. And in turn, you're always taking care of your kids. So really important to keep in mind. So I want to just share a minute. You know, Shannon, of course, I love her introduction. I love her just as much. And, you know, introduced me as Dr. Allison Chase. Yes, that is what I am. I'm a psychologist and a clinician and work with Eating Recovery Center in that capacity. But to share with you, I'm also a very real person, and I'm a mom. And I'm a mom of young adults. And I have to tell you, when Shannon actually asked me if I wanted to be part of this, I thought, oh my goodness. I was like, mothering in 2020, I was challenged in a way, thank God, that wasn't overly tragic, but it was challenging for me. 2020 was a big year for the Chase family, right? We had lots of great events going on. We had high school graduation for my daughter. And which, of course, you know, the plans, the ideas, all the goals that go into it. Well, this was the extent of high school graduation, folks. Yes, 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 yes. She got to put this on, but this is what we did. Nothing like high school graduation in a little neighborhood car ride where we got to like cheer a little. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm finding silver linings and being appreciative, but the disappointment for somebody that has worked so hard for so many years and was looking forward to this moment as a mom, my heart was breaking. So we have that going on in May, right? And in May, simultaneously is going on, I do have another child and I have college graduation. Super exciting, right? How amazing. College graduation. I have high school graduation. I have college graduation. These kids are moving on to these amazing places. My son worked his tushy off through college, right? And this is what it looked like for him in our living room. This was college graduation. I'll have you know that is his sister that was doing the president of the university handshake. So, and yes, was it a moment to be had that we celebrated? Of course. And my son, who had worked so hard and was looking forward to all the traditions, he went to a school back east, all the traditions that went along with it, all disappeared. So I looked at the two of them and my heart was breaking for them. It really, really was. And let me just tell you, they needed me. They needed me to help them because they were struggling. It was really, really hard, right? So what did I have to do? I was breathing like no one's business. And if you think I was like breathing all the time every day, that's a lie. I was not. I had moments where I was not breathing. I was feeling sad and I was feeling disappointed, but I had to come back to it because they needed me to be there for them. So I want you to know that I live real life mothering and I've lived real life this pandemic. So I just wanted to share a moment with you all. And now I can't wait to hear about Nicole's challenges in parenting in 2020. I can only imagine what's to come.
And before we launch into that, I just want to say I forgot one very important housekeeping note, and I'm starting to see your guys' emails. So you don't have to email me for your questions, so you're always welcome to. We have a question. It's a Q&A box that's at the bottom of your screen on Ring Central. You can just click on that if you have questions for McCall and Dr. Chase. Put your questions in at any point in the webinar and we'll have some time at the end to talk about them. I got a couple emails, so I will ask them those questions, but feel free if you have questions, thoughts you want to share, please do type them in the Q&A box and we will get to them. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, McCall.
No, not at all. Thank you, Dr. Chase. I mean, first of all, tell your daughter to call me when she gets to Georgia. I didn't realize she was going to UGA, and I'm so excited. I love it. It's just right up the road where I'm in Jacksonville. So we'll have to bring Southern Smash there while she's at UGA.
You know what? Let's talk about that. That would be an amazing idea.
Sure, it's done.
Yes.
We've been there many times. I love Georgia. My sister went to Georgia. She was a Kappa there. So I love Athens. And so, yeah, I think that everything that Dr. Chase hit on, you know, I'm coming at it from a non-clinical, just the mom that's trying to survive in 2020, as we all are, and also as someone in recovery from an eating disorder. And I think that 2020, you know, I'm 10 years into recovery and I've never been so tested in my own recovery journey than I am right now, for a multitude of reasons. And you know, we're going to share some, I don't even want to call them tips, but just some ideas around how we can all strengthen not just our recovery, but just our filling our own cups in a little bit. But, you know, I think one of the biggest things that I have to say first off is something that always carries me through challenging times is just sticking to the basics and making sure I'm fueling my body, resting my body. And that is so difficult. Especially given, you know, the situation and time that we're in this year. And it is certainly, you know, I have 2 little ones my son is 8 and in 3rd grade, and my daughter is 6 going on 24 in kindergarten. And so you add all of that together, and they're both very high energy, what we like to call spirited children. And it's been difficult because overnight, obviously in March, they were no more with their friends. And also I work full time, and I considered myself a full-time mom and a full-time, working woman, working mom. And all of a sudden I was throwing teacher on top of that. And it was, and still continues to be. Now my kids are back in school for hopefully as long as we can keep them safe and healthy. But this past spring was definitely one of the most challenging times, because I had so many balls in the air. I'm trying to take care of my kids. I'm trying to teach my kids. I'm trying to take care, working and doing, I don't even consider my work because it's my passion. It's what I do. It's what I love. And our community as a whole, our mental health community, is suffering so bad throughout this pandemic. And we were trying to give as many resources as we could. And so just feeling the weight of it all has been so difficult. And all I can ever think of during these difficult times, and if anyone has ever followed me on Instagram or my blog, you probably know my daughter was born at 27 weeks. My daughter's a cancer survivor. So we've had a lot of life hurdles and challenges. And through that, my recovery has been tested in ways that it became very apparent to me that in order to stay strong in my recovery, I had to continue. Allison, when we kind of talked the other day, Dr. Chase pulled up this slide. It says, "You cannot pour from an empty cup." And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my motto in life. And it became my motto very early on when Marjorie was born early, because I realized that in order to be the parent I wanted to be, I had to first fill my cup up. And that is not being selfish, it's being self-full. And filling my cup, and during this pandemic, was very, very difficult, because you're trying to take care of everyone and everything, and your kids are hurting, they're confused, especially if they're little, they're trying to figure out what's going on, and their normalcy is gone, your normalcy is gone. I mean, hell, even the dog doesn't understand why you're home all the time. I mean, it's like everyone is kind of like, what is happening? And it really took, thank God, and we'll talk about this in a minute too, but just all of the things that I do for my own self-care, for me to truly schedule in time for me, and to truly take in very simple, small joys, and to find really unique ways to fill my cup in a time that is intensely wild and crazy, and you don't know what the next day is going to be. And there is, like Dr. Chase shared, there's no manual for parenthood, there's no manual for a pandemic, and there's definitely no manual for parenting in a pandemic. And just trying to figure out, I feel like we have all of these pressures that come at us from every single way, whether it's how are we feeding our kids, or how are we letting our kids have technology when technology is how they are seeing their friends, or whether it's how much they can get outside, but if they get outside, are they going to see the neighbor, and has the neighbor been exposed? And there's, you're just being hit from every single direction. And one of the most grounding and beautiful things that I have found during this time is finding my tribe of people. And again, we'll talk about this in a minute, but to realize that you're not alone. And because I think early on, even myself, I felt very alone, because it was so overwhelming of all of the things that are coming at you too. Like this says, you're just trying to survive, and you're trying to get by. And so many times in my life have been just, let's survive, let's survive, let's survive. And then looking back on them, I realized that I did a lot of little things that I was actually like really building and really redefining who I was, and who I was not just as a mom, but who I was as a person. I'm going to turn it to Dr. Chase to explain our awesome quotes right here.
Unmuting would help, matters. It's so interesting that you were talking about that is a sort of a classic quote for yourself, that needing to fill up your cup. And you know what? I did not even know that. Maybe I should have known that. I didn't. I ended up picking these out because they are just, to me, they're just they're quite profound in the sense that like, and yet so logical, right? It is so true that if you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not filling up your own cup, if you are not doing that, there is no way that you can do it for anybody else or any of the other things that are out there. And I think so often there's so much guilt around self-care, right? There's guilt around it, or there's this idea that somehow we're not supposed to be because we're supposed to be giving or doing. And I just think that's a crazy myth, to be honest with you. It just is. And it's one that we need to kind of push away if that's something you kind of gotten yourself caught up in, that cycle, and recognize just how important it is, because nobody else can exist unless you're ready to go to help take care of them. And that's one of the things, in addition to sort of this idea of self-care. So like, how do we do it? How do we keep our cup full? And we all have our own ways. And I think it's important to recognize what feels good for oneself. I just bring up kind of a couple important points about connection that I think is really, really important. So, I think this first slide just sort of depicts the idea of, who are our friends? What are our friends, right? And I think, yes, we can have a lot of them out there, and I think we can make a lot of friends in various places, but I think it's really about thinking about where my connections are and where I get my needs met. And that really comes from, whichever way you could be with people where you can be really authentic and feel like you're getting that. So it's lovely to have lots of friends and lots of connections. And in this world that we are living in right now, yes, reach for them and hold on to them. And as McCall said so beautifully, like, we need to really think about our tribe, right? Who is our tribe? Because our tribe is where we're not only going to get fulfilled, but we're going to be able to give and take. And it's both are really important.
Yeah. And I think, so this is what I really love to talk about. I think everyone knows, the previous slide that I had of my kids and like just the struggle. Got it. Everyone's like, yes, me too. But this is where my self-care lives. My self-care lives in a little pill called Zoloft, which should be in the water, if you ask me, and therapy, which I have my therapist. Everyone should have a therapist, if you ask me. And taking time. I live at the beach, so I use that as my little happy place to go on walks, to sit, to listen, and to just be. And I think that just being, just sitting is so difficult. One day my therapist said, I have literally really embraced my adulthood in that I love to garden and I love to be in my yard. I'm really adulting. And she said, can you sit? Can you just sit and look at your flowers? And I was like, well, no, I see weeds. I see this. I want to go tinker. And she said, just sit. And that is so difficult. And yet that is one of the ways that I have had to, it's a practice that I have learned to fill my cup with just being, not walking or running or doing, but sitting and just being and taking a minute to journal. And, and part of it too is just being really open with looking at my husband or, whoever it might be and saying, I need to go take this time for me. That's it. Like, I don't need to tell you why. I don't need a reason. It's just like, this is what I need for me. And I think in 2020, if we're talking about moms, but I think really any parent, like, we are being asked so much in this day and age, and we are being criticized for so much because, you scroll through social media and it's like, you're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. And so just to take it aback, whether it's through sitting across from my therapist and being validated and reminded that you're doing a great job, or just taking a minute just to listen to the ocean and just saying like, I am here, I am present, and this is okay. And then Dr. Chase, if you'll click to the next one, this was my favorite, is that this is my tribe. This is a few of my tribe. And I consider myself really lucky to have women around me who aren't just friends, but really just soul sisters. And I'm just beyond, I can't even describe, because finding people is one thing, but finding people who can validate and know what you're going through is a whole different thing. And yes, I can totally self-isolate. That's my downfall. That is my Achilles heel. When I get down, I will dig myself into a hole. And these people will call me out and say, you haven't called us. You haven't done this. You haven't like spoken out. We have an app that we communicate through called Marco Polo, and it's like a video chat app. And if I'm quiet for more than a day, because I'm not real quiet, but ever, they're like checking in, what's going on. And so this app, this tribe of people that I've known for 20 plus years, they will say, what's up? And it's just, no one has the answer, right? Nobody is going to have the answer or the cure or the fix that is 2020. But to have someone that can sit next to you and say, oh, me too. Oh my God, my husband just did that too, and it drives me nuts. Whatever it might be, it's like, yes, there is such comfort in that. There's such healing in that. And that alone has been just this beautiful eye-opening of like, I can't go down into that hole that my eating disorder put me in, that hole of just trying to do everything by myself and alone. This 2020, as much of a dumpster fire as it has been, has brought me to light that like, I need my tribe. I need to rely on them to say, hey, like, what's going on? Where are you? How are you doing? And just validate kind of what I am thinking and feeling and going through and supporting me in ways. Because that's all we can ever do for anyone. And that's what the support groups that at the Alliance that we offer, that's what I've always wanted with Southern Smash, was to give that support, because that was the one huge thing missing in my recovery journey when I left treatment, was somebody to sit next to me in a group and say, me too, I understand. And so to have that empathy, and, you know, tribes can be hard to come by, but they're not impossible. And so they do take work though. It's not something that you just snap your fingers. It's something that you have to work at. But it is something that can give back to you just tenfold, along with, it's just one piece of the puzzle with self-care, work, with whatever it might be that needs, your puzzle is going to look different for you than it does for me. And this is just kind of what my puzzle looks like, especially in 2020. And so I just really urge you to look at what, you know, Dr. Chase is saying today, and like all the resources that are going to be there, to look at what do you need to really fill your cup. Because as a mother, this is obvious, it's hands down, without saying, the hardest job. And at the end of the day, I know we can all relate when we tuck our kiddos into bed and we snuggle with them and they say, I love you, Mom. And it just makes all that work and stress from the end of the day of telling them to do their homework 20 times that you're like, you know, it takes it all away. But it doesn't, you need people, you need your tribe, and you need to learn how to be there for yourself. You have to fill your own cup so that you can give to your kids in a way that you want to be there.
Nicole, I was actually, as you said so many incredible things in talking about kind of what the needs are, the needs for everybody. And I was really tuning into when you were talking about that ability to just be, you know, and I'm wondering, you know, and I know we'll get some questions afterward, but I'm wondering if a number of those out there that are listening, if that is a struggle for them as well, right? So I wonder if you maybe could share how did you learn to just be? Because it's one of the more challenging things to do.
A challenge. You know, I mean, I think it's an ongoing thing. And I think, you know, part of, I'm not a clinician, never have been, never will be. And I am of lived experience and of living experience of struggling with all the things. And you know, being present is something that takes practice, and it's something I work on every day. And, you know, I know when I need it, and I don't want to have to do it because it's so uncomfortable. And it's something that some days you sit down and almost white knuckle through it. You know, you just kind of go, you just got to sit here and be present. And then you just kind of take those breaths like you were talking about, and you find that steady point. For me, actually being present, the easiest way for me to find that kind of quiet is to write. So it's not necessarily like a mindfulness, like DBT type meditation, but I write and I try to just calm my mind that way. But truly sitting outside, I try to focus on And I have to quiet, and I'll be completely honest, because that's all I know to be, is I have to quiet that inner critic that's like, this is so stupid. What are you doing? Looking at the birds, you know, but I truly have to say to myself, find a bird, find a tree, I have these wonderful, beautiful red cardinals that are always in my backyard that to me remind me of my grandmother. And so I always look for those. And part of my challenge is quieting that critic. And part of it is just simply looking for the red birds and just being present and listening to the wind and listening to the trees that, you know, blow in the wind or whatever it might be. For me, it's acknowledging the critic and then doing it anyway. And so that's, I think, you know, because I know a lot of people that struggle with mindfulness, that they're like, I can't do it. And I'm like, me neither. But I do, because I just acknowledge, like, and that's what I always say. I say it every Monday night in our groups is, you know, the gift of recovery isn't this cure. It isn't this eating disorder goes away. The gift of recovery is this beautiful gift of awareness that, okay, this is here, whether it's the eating disorder, whether it's a critical gremlin, whether it's perfectionism, anxiety, depression, it's here. And I'm going to do this anyway. I'm going to sit, I'm going to look at the birds, I'm going to look at the ocean, I'm going to look at shells, I'm going to do whatever it is. And so for me to be present, I try to focus on one thing or think about something external, and rather than like keeping this dialogue going in my head of whatever it might be that day.
Which I think is so amazing. And just, I think it's a huge challenge for most, right? To be able to be present or quiet and not, especially if you are used to the task of mothering, which is requiring a number of things to do. And so I do have to tell you, you were very good with the DBT skills. I don't even know if you realized it, but you really laid out the importance of the dialectic, right? Of having both parts, about that you can have this critic in your head that you can, you know, learn to do something about, and to be able to be present and to do that, right? So very impressive.
I love the and. I love it.
The and is essential, because it is there. That is often the way things are. So I think it's really helpful to share like your own experiences of how you do it, because many, I think, find themselves, you know, really, really struggling. And I think one of the really important pieces that you talked about was that you did white knuckle through some of it, but you did it, right? So it's like and again, it doesn't take much. Even if you do it for 5 seconds or 5 minutes, it doesn't matter, right? It's the idea that we've had that kind of success that can be so powerful. So going back a little bit, we talked about anxiety, right? The one thing we know that is most powerful in keeping anxiety going is avoidance. And so, as many know, if something is uncomfortable or they don't want to do it, they just don't do it. But if you don't do it, you never learn that it's really not so bad. And actually, in turn, it might be really helpful. So again, challenging everybody to do that. But thanks so much for sharing that part. Although I know you're a sharer, so it's all good. So,
and Dr. Chase, that's great that you just said that. I got emailed a couple questions, and one of them was just being so overwhelmed by the to-do list of having young kids and working and teaching and all of it, that she feels paralyzed. So what can she do when she feels so overwhelmed? She says when she wakes up in the morning, it's just like her to-do list is longer than it's ever been, and she's just avoiding lots of things, especially at work, because she just doesn't know where to begin.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that, of course, there, you know, always is. I think McCall spelled out so well that the importance of like professional resources, right? Whether it be in the forms of therapy or whatnot, right? That is an avenue and a path to take, especially if things are really getting in the way of your functioning. As far as things you can do yourself, I kid you not about the breathing part. I know one may be like, you got to be kidding. That's what you're offering me? And yes, it is what I'm offering you. And it's because, so that feeling when you get up in the morning and you start physiologically, right? Your heart starts beating fast. You feel like maybe your palms are getting sweaty. You feel really revved up. that is an alarm system going off in your brain. You have been activated. Again, that very basic, that limbic system, that very basic part of your brain has been activated. And that's called the sympathetic nervous system. And the beautiful thing is that we know how to activate the counterpart to that, which is by slowing ourselves down and slowing our body down. And I really want to recommend, I know we all probably don't get enough sleep anyway, but even if you were to set that alarm 3 to 5 minutes beforehand, 3 to 5 minutes, and take a moment and just breathe. It's like slow breaths in and out. It's really not super fancy. You can get fancy with it. There are plenty of apps and things that you can use to do that. But if you just do that to calm your body down, you will be amazed at how much better that part of your brain that helps you to prioritize and figure out which parts of the to-do list to do will get working.
Yeah, and I can't agree more with setting the alarm a little earlier. It's painful. But also, I think literally in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, my husband and I have started a routine of doing lunches and like things that we can the night before. So it's not such a rat race in the morning. And I don't know why, it just feels like a weight off our shoulders, and you might already be doing this, but I think too, one of the best things my therapist from years and years ago, early in my recovery, ever told me was, when I get really overwhelmed, I feel like I have to do everything that is on my list that day, that hour. And it's like, oh my God, it's too much. And she told me, she said, write the 3 things that you can do today that are tangible, that you can do, that you can check off. And I still to this day do those things, because you have these you have these grandiose ideas and things that you need to do with work and things that you need to do with the kid. I've had orthodontist appointment for my son on my to-do list for a solid 3 months now. I just have not picked up the phone and done it. It's a whole other issue, just because I haven't had time to do it and I haven't thought about it, but it's still on my to-do list. And so rather than have that rattle me, I mean, my son might have really weird teeth when he's 20, but we'll deal with that then. But I focus on what I need to do for him today. And today I need to work on his spelling words. And today I need to do this. And this is all I can do right now, And so I think for me, breathing, yes. Waking up earlier before all the minions get up and doing all the things is great. Going to bed a little earlier. Those things are very good. And sometimes for me, I know it's like, okay, I know all those things, but I can't do them. Also, it just takes a little extra effort, and just to break it down a little bit easier, because we have so much on our plate. So break it down to things that you can do by the day. That is a little easier to digest.
And I'm going to bring up one more thing sort of in relation to this slide that's up at the moment, right? Which is, don't be afraid to ask for help. Mm-hmm. Where you can do that. Obviously, there may be things related to work and whatnot that are your responsibility, but when you can reach out to your tribe, when you can reach out to others, even if you're not sure they're part of your tribe or you feel that way, you can always ask. Somebody might not be able to do it, but it's really a kind of a wonderful skill to acquire, to put out there what you need. And it really can be very helpful. I think something has happened with us as women, it's quite historical, I'm sure, this idea that we somehow have to take it all on and do it. And we don't. Asking for help is actually a really incredible skill. And it's one that can be really useful, because just think of all the other things that you could get to and do in a way that's really, really
feels
so much better.
Yeah, and it feels good. And I had a friend recently that I took her son to something, and it was so easy for me because I was like, hey, let me do this for you. And she was so, oh my gosh, thank you. And I'm like, why don't we do this more often? And so it just takes, whether you're on the offering end or the receiving end, don't be afraid to ask, because 9 times out of 10 people want to help each other, especially this day and age. So definitely, I think that's such an awesome point.
Totally. Oh my gosh, I needed this tonight. So I have I have 2 other emails, but I'm going to kind of combine them they're both about mom guilt. One person shared that she's dealing with work guilt. She's always been familiar with mom guilt. Now she has work guilt on top of it, and she's just feeling a lot of shame. And another person emailed about screen time. She just feels scared that, like, you know, just to get things done during the day. Her kids are watching a lot of TV on the iPad, on the phone, and she feels like a bad mom. So I think if you guys can both speak to just, I think what we're getting at here is shame, and maybe what you're talking about, Dr. Chase, this kind of thing we feel as women that we have to do it all and do it in a certain way. So both of you can kind of speak to just mom guilt. And I think we started this talk saying, you know, I love how you started it, Dr. Chase, saying, you know, we're doing the best we can. And yeah, I feel like so many of us, me included, are like, I should know how to handle like being a mom during a pandemic. Like I should, you know, but no, we don't. So if you guys could both kind of share a little bit about that, I think that would be helpful to our participants.
Nicole, do
You want me to?
Sure.
I mean, you know, the mom guilt is just, I think every mom walking the planet, every parent walking the planet gets it. I think moms more than anything, but, you know, you feel bad if you're not with your kids, you feel bad if you're not at work. And so it's just this prevalent like guilt notion, this, you know, I should be doing better. I should be like, you know, queen of the PTA, and I should be CEO of this, and I should be, you know, have a perfect house. And I, you know, so I think that anytime we hear those shoulds is such a red flag for any of us in any situation in our life. And I think that, you know, mom guilt, I kind of go back to, you know, sometimes good enough is good enough. And really just leaning into that and saying, okay, my child's third grade, you know, grades aren't going to get him into Harvard. So we're going to roll with what we have on this project tonight, because I've also got to do this. So really just learning how to prioritize and like giving, you know, my biggest word, if I had a tattoo, it would be across my face and it would say grace, you know, just giving yourself just a ton of grace, like all the grace in the world, because that's all I know to do at this point in my life. That's how I've, you know, managed recovery, because I lived majority of my life in this very black and white thinking, the black and white, like good, bad, pass, fail, you know, whatever it might be, just these extremities. And I now really work very, very hard, and it's a practice to live in the gray, to live in the in-between, to live in that, okay, just because I did not get to go through every single, you know, I didn't spray paint perfectly the planets for the solar system for my son's project because I had this other deadline of a, you know, a article I had to write. They're both going to be okay. Like, I'm going to survive. I'm going to live to, you know, tell another day. I can real speak to, well, I can speak to mom guilt all day long, but I can also speak to screen time all day long. Because in this pandemic with two little ones that, you know, I know the older ones have a different type of screen time, but for the little ones, it's, you know, the end of the world if they have too much screen time, and you have all these articles and all these things, and you have all this mom guilt on, you know, oh, they shouldn't get over, you know, 62 minutes a day. And if it's 62 minutes, it should be PBS. And it's like, well, my kid likes Minecraft. And so you have all of these different, you know, things coming up. And also I'm trying to teach them at home while also trying to be on a conference call, while trying to do all of these different things. And at the end of the day, I'm just doing the best I can with what I have. And it just comes back to grace. And it comes back to, literally, we were recording our Dare to Love Yourself Summit back in September. And we have these two phenomenal speakers. And Marjorie, my daughter, literally dragged into my office a karaoke machine and a disco ball. And I was like, I'm going to need you to take your iPad and just get out, you know? So it's, my therapist will always remind me, you know, no one has done this. Like, no one has parented through a pandemic, you know? So if we need, if they need screens a little bit more, they're going to survive. And so that's kind of how I take it. It doesn't mean that my children get screens 24/7, nor do they want screens 24/7. They would rather time with me. They would rather time, going somewhere and doing something, but that's not an option. So we're just, I really just truly believe in giving ourselves grace and just trying to do the best we can. Going back to the tribe that I was mentioning, we talk all the time back and forth about, whether it's virtual schooling, whether it's one of my friends in the tribe is an attorney, and she's literally trying cases in her guest room in front of a judge, and like she's got her daughters behind her. And so just trying to manage the best we can. And so if screens are going to help you manage, let it be. It's not going to kill them. They're going to be okay. And giving yourself that space, that grace, and knowing that, for me, I'm going to give my kids that time, whatever it might be, with what they love on their iPads, whatever. And I'm going to focus, I'm going to get my work done so that when I close my computer, they're going to close theirs. And then I can be wholeheartedly present with them. And that means more to me than me being half here, half there, and trying to manage it all. So I just really think that all of it comes down to just reminding yourself you're doing the best you can, reminding yourself of giving yourself that grace, that space to get done what you need to do, and then to be present. And so whatever you need to do to be present later on, I think is greater than trying to like manage screen time here and doing this here and just segmenting and fragmenting yourself.
I mean, all of those are right on target. Such great points, especially about, the giving yourself grace, doing the best you can, realizing that good enough is really good enough, truly, right? And I think the part that's really important is so often we don't realize how much like of our own power we have to be able to influence where our thoughts and our guilt and our shame and our worry, where it takes us, right? We actually can be the ones to help, to just, even if we just quiet it down for like 30 seconds, or even if we are able to hit pause for 30 seconds or change a little bit of the story, whatever that is, that's awesome. That is doing something, and it does have a great impact. And so that's the part I really want you to think about and remember as you're struggling with all of this, guilt that comes up, or shame, or feeling like you can't do anything right. You know what? Let's try to change the story just a little bit in our head. Let's just change the dialogue a little and be able to recognize that, and you'll be amazed about how much power it does have. And sometimes, though, we have to do things like put sticky notes up around, right? Be able to like tell us things, give us little reminders. Some people look at me and be like, really? You're really suggesting doing things? And I'm saying yes. Anything that we can do that creates for us like a reminder about the fact that we are doing a good enough job, which is just all that needs to happen, or to remind us to take a breath and calm down, or to remind us that we can change this dialogue, that we're really doing the best we can, is always really helpful. And everything that McCall said, I can tell you from a clinician standpoint, for sure, that if your kids need screens right now to get us through 2020 and what's going on, by all means, give them the screens. We will, we'll figure out kind of what needs to happen next. I'm not worried about that at all. Everybody will figure it out. McCall's kids are going to end up having fine teeth by the end of this whole thing. I have no doubt about it. We'll figure it out, right? You may embrace it.
The irony is that my dad's a dentist.
Oh my goodness.
My mom is like, you need to get him in braces. I'm like, I got it. I'm on it.
And you know what? So he may have braces an extra month or two if you wait a little long. But you know what? We'll figure it out, because that's what we do. And that is how we're going to manage. And so you got to have, again, and like we haven't talked about this quite a bit. And Shannon, this can be a whole nother talk about, but how do we have more trust in ourselves and our ability to know that we're going to be able to do this and we're going to make it through, because we do, and we keep doing that. And that's one of the things that we're blessed with as moms.
Thank you so much. I feel like this was just like a soul session for me tonight. And I love this quote that you have here. There is no way to be a perfect mother, but a million ways to be a good one, you know? And I know we're going to be wrapping up. There was another question. Yes, this is recorded. And so we will be sending it out in an e-blast to all of our registrants and all of our email lists. Please share it with any mamas that you think could use the support. Again, we offer free support groups at Eating Recovery Center and Pathlight. We offer treatment if you need a higher level of care. And the Alliance for Eating Disorders Association is just really an incredible resource. And I'd urge everybody to visit their website and really take a deep dive. Look at their support groups. When is the LGBTQIA, what is the time and date that it starts?
Wednesday. So we launch next Wednesday. So it'll be every Wednesday, 7 to 8:30 p.m. You register on our website every week, and then you'll be sent a link to the group about an hour before. That's the same with all of our groups, our individuals, our friends and family. You register, and then you'll be sent a link about an hour before.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I think, we don't have to do this alone. Asking for help is an incredible skill, quoting Dr. Chase. And so those support groups and trying to find the support you need by using their referrals is amazing. So I really hope anyone who's watching this or gets this later checks out the Alliance for Eating Disorders Awareness. You can follow McCall on Instagram. I know I see you every morning and I'm like, oh yes, she too is like somehow making it through this. Like I just thank you for being, actually just both of you, for being so real and so wise. I've gotten so much out of tonight. So I don't know if there's anything either of you want to say in closing. I know it's 6 o'clock, but
thank you for having me. And this has been so fun. Dr. Chase, it's been fun speaking with you, and Shannon, always a delight. And, anytime I can talk about motherhood and not just me talk about it, but just like to have others embrace the messiness that is, this is such a healing thing for me and a good reminder for me. So I thank you both, and thank everyone that tuned in.
I would say the same. It's been so wonderful to get a chance to share this time with you, McCall. I love hearing your wisdom. It's awesome and really incredible. And my hope would be that everybody was able to take away little pieces, so we can have mamas out there that are filling their own cups so that they can be able to do the job that they need to do. So I've really enjoyed getting a chance to be here tonight. Thank you so much. And thanks, Shannon, for bringing me in.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you next time. And we appreciate you and your courage for being here and practicing self-care. Good night.